but I then started UBI Lab Women with some other women that were involved in UBI, just to drive a conversation around, gender equality and why UBI can help a lot of women in will provide. But that's me.
Did we lose Lydia?
Lydia.
It does sound like we're having bandwidth problems.
Yeah.
We were just so close to not having technical difficulties.
You might need to do that again.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Could you please begin again?
Yeah.
Okay, am I on now?
Yes, you sound good.
It was more the last half that cut out for me.
Yeah, it was the last half. I heard the first one.
Okay. So we just established UBI Lab Women to focus on, like women's issues in the UK and how UBI could really help women in poverty here in the UK and Wales. And then Leo, if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Leo. Just graduated university in Cardiff, in Wales. Established UBI Lab Youth on the basis that the UBI campaign, I think, is too sort of centered around the ideas of sort of automation and things like that, and we sort of lose sight of the communities which UBI benefits the most. So that'd be Lydia's case, women, the LGBT community, BAME community, and young people. And that's why I was passionate about setting up UBI Youth. We're sort of part of the wider UBI Lab network, which you might have seen sort of popping up on social media in the UK. We were the first non-geographical based lab which was set up. We basically just sort of hammer home the arguments for why UBI is important for young people. Just to give a little bit of perspective as well, I'm a member of the Labour Party in the UK, which is essentially the equivalent of the Democrats, but yeah, there's a little bit more of a discrepancy there. So yeah, what's interesting is that our Labour Party's sort of logo is red, and a lot of Americans I've spoken to in the past have thought I was a Republican because our logo is red. So if that clears anything up, then we're yeah. Yeah, no, go ahead and ask any questions you like.
Oh, fantastic. Because I just wanted to let you know that we're very familiar with how far right America's Overton and politics are currently. So don't you worry. Honestly, maybe even 50 years ago, the Republican Party might have been analogous to today's Labor Party. We've been pulled right.
Can I just say it's super cool that we are getting people on for UBI in so many different countries. Well, okay, I say so many. We've had Canada and now you guys, but still it's cool. It's not just America, and if we can get more people from other countries, just imagine it's a worldwide thing we could pull off. I think if we're very careful. Could you imagine?
Oh yeah,
the face of the earth.
A world-based income would completely change the fundamentals of capitalism around the globe. It wouldn't be wealth extraction and trade. It would actually be production maximization.
It would be incredible. And then you wouldn't have people in other countries that are children jumping on trash piles, picking up plastic, okay? They could actually just feed themselves without having to put themselves in harm's way. Other countries need it just as much as our country. I don't know if you guys seen what I'm talking about, but I think it was Orlando Bloom went to a different country and was just looking at the different poverty. It's a beautiful I want to say TV show, but yeah, it's a TV show. But the first episode was I think it's on Netflix. Anyway, it's really good. Really sad. But anyway, yeah. Other people.
So Lydia and Leo, how far has Andrew Yang's name made it throughout the world? Or was there any talk about him running for president in the UK? Or yeah.
Not especially sort of Andrew Yang. I think a lot of people are drawn to the concept of universal basic income because in the UK we've had the NHS. It was its 72nd birthday just a couple of days ago, and that's universal healthcare. So I think a lot of people are drawn to the idea of universal basic income because it's sort of it's very similar to the NHS in the sense that it gives everyone a sense that they can't go under a certain poverty line. So I think Andrew Yang's campaign, like he did really well to sort of elevate it. But I think in the UK, sort of UBI is still very much in its infancy in terms of how the public perceive it. A lot of people don't really know what UBI means. Like if you say basic income, it's more sort of people can sort of imagine what it is. But I think in the UK, we're sort of, we're quite far behind in that regard. I mean, the UBI was in roughly in the Labour Party's manifesto in 2019, but then we lost incredibly heavily to Boris Johnson. So I think it's maybe sort of discredited in that regard, but we're still sort of fighting for it.
So onto the headline news then with Brexit. I know that Britain and the Wales as well as Scotland were not already part of the Eurozone. But now that you are completely out of the European Union, how much more likely do you think it is to get a basic income passed?
Lydia, do you want to go first on that one? Because
The end cut off just at the end.
Oh, so sorry. How much more likely do you think it is basic income will pass now that Britain is its own country instead of part of the European Union?
That's a tricky one. I mean, with a Tory Conservative government, the EU is more sort of liberal and left leaning. But it's tricky how Brexit would impact it, because it would have to be a UK-wide thing, even though we have devolved politics in the UK. So Scotland has powers, Wales has powers, and then Northern Ireland. It would have to come from central government. We don't have enough powers to implement it individually.
Yeah, we saw that with the Scotland election this last cycle, I believe. They got like really bad representation in the central government because of the first past the post voting, I believe.
Yeah, essentially. So it's tricky in the UK. Like you might get a lot of votes, but not necessarily the seats. But I think it's likely if the government were to change and be maybe a Labour government or something, but with a Conservative government, although UBI is cross-party, it tends to be the more centre and left parties that are understanding of universal basic income. But in saying that, the Tories in recent months, because of COVID, have given the biggest amounts of spending probably ever. They've actually taken on policies that Labour would have backed in terms of like spending and paying job security and stuff. But sadly, after COVID, will probably be reversed, and is being reversed and rolled back now. But it makes it harder for them to say they haven't got the money when they clearly there is pots of money available. But in terms of Brexit, I'm not sure if it gives us more power to do certain things, or if it makes it harder, because essentially we're run by a right-wing party at the minute.
Yeah, well, I guess that's more on the pandemic side, because the economy is so fragile right now that Keynesian stimulus is the only thing that saves it, even with conservative fiscal ideals.
Yeah, and I mean, especially a UBI would do better for the economy right now and it's sort of what they in the UK now, they're going to look at giving people like vouchers to go and spend money in like shops and restaurants and clubs and all things like that coming out of lockdown. So they're giving money to people to spend, for like domestic spending and stuff, and disposable income. So the ideas of UBI are kind of there, but not really supported by the Tory government.
Oh, I feel you. Our government's trying to push the exact same kind of garbage. They are offering a $4,000 tax credit to vacation travels. So if you spend $8,000, you can take $4,000 off of your taxes because of your travel. But clearly that's only a giveaway to the rich.
Yeah, and essentially that, we don't have enough money to help people pay their rent in the UK, but we have enough money to let people go and get drunk with their friends. So I think the priorities of the government are slightly questionable. But
backwards.
if there is a economic backing to UBI, that it would help the economy massively right now to reboot itself. For people just to have a basic level of a safety net, really, in these troubling times that are just so hard for so many. But what do you think, Leo, in terms of Brexit?
Well, I'm very passionate about. In my room, I've got a huge EU flag on the wall.
Hey, I support the great work the EU has done. I just personally believe confederacies will never stand the test of time. But good on the EU.
Yeah, well, fundamentally,
Like from one confederacy to another. We're not doing so hot.
We're a federacy. Don't
I'm
conflate
sorry.
the two.
Sorry.
We went to war
Right,
over
of course,
secession.
Of course.
And
We're
Brexit
not
won't see
a
that.
federation yet, though.
Yeah, but we're still a federacy.
But yeah, no. So like fundamentally, the UK is poor as a whole, being outside the European Union, and the reasons for Brexit, which were peddled, are sort of this idea of being on our own, being British, being great, which is very much like a lot of people I feel are sort of stuck in this mindset that we've still just won the Second World War, which and need to move on from that.
That's not very dissimilar from the United States, who still is acting like we won the Cold War and that we beat communism and America is the greatest thing ever.
True.
It's great.
All that nonsense.
That's so true.
Right,
Neoliberalism is a post-history worldview. That's the problem. It is indeed,
Yeah.
as stated, World War II forever. And if you don't think that, you may never run for president.
Yeah.
So the EU in itself is sort of economically neoliberal, with its sort of like they got a Schengen agreement where basically there's no borders for trading, things like that. But sort of socially, it's very progressive, very liberal. When in the UK, sort of there was a bit of a left-wing argument for leaving the EU, which we could sort of recover socialism after leaving it, but fundamentally, the Tories are in power and they're like, probably about the same as Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan in terms of deregulation. So it's just worse for our economy. And I think, we are in the 21st century. We need to be open. That's fundamentally what globalization is. Globalization is a good thing, especially with sort of students going in and around the world and everything. So I think Brexit is just damaging. And I just don't get this idea of Britain being alone and sovereign in this world. It's not tenable. So yeah, I was unfortunately too young to vote in the referendum in 2016. But if there was a second one, I would be voting to either rejoin the EU or remain in the EU, whatever the question is. But yeah.
So I would like to ask a question to you guys. What kind of efforts are you guys pulling off in your country that maybe you think America isn't capitalizing on yet, if anything at all? And or what are some of your guys' strategies and how efficient do you think they are?
So in terms of UBI and like awareness of UBI, so me and Leo have basically come into UBI in lockdown. Like it's something we've got involved in lockdown itself. So at the minute, everything we can do is digitally, is just Zoom. And apart from, doing events online and tweeting, I think from my perspective of UBI Lab Women, someone said, I hope no one takes offense, that UBI is full of guys that love robots, that love talking about automation, but no one talks about women. No one really those discussions aren't really had. And so if you want to get UBI to as many people as you can, you need to talk about the issues that affect them. You need to talk about why UBI would be great for paying people. You need to talk about why UBI could help people from the LGBT community and how it fundamentally could help women. So until you have those conversations, those groups of people aren't going to join in really, because they might not feel that it really applies to them and their life. So with UBI Lab Youth and Women, we're trying to showcase that young people, this can help you, and women, this could help you as well, and just explain like the ways in which. So we've got a launch event for UBI Women, and in our launch we'll just be sort of discussing issues from like domestic violence, unpaid care, work in the home, the potential for adult learning and retraining. So I think for us, we just want to take the conversation to places it hasn't commonly been, and really explore some sometimes more powerful arguments. I think, the argument for financial agency and independency of women on the welfare system in the UK is something that's a really strong argument, because in Britain and in Wales, we have universal credit, which if you need benefits, you apply to it. But if you live with a partner, the benefits is just given to you as a household. And then because of this, the abuser in the relationship can hold and restrict finance and money from the abused, often woman. And if one of the reasons women can't leave these relationships is because they're in poverty and they can't, survive outside of the relationship. So they're dependent on often the man's wage. So if we had a universal basic income, these women would have an opportunity to leave, or would be more likely to leave. It wouldn't solve domestic violence. We're not saying that. It's still a huge issue in society, but it would give a lot of women on the breadline the option to possibly leave. And so, that's a hugely compelling reason that you should support UBI. But one that isn't one that often when I talk about, a lot of people and often guys are like, oh, I never thought UBI could do that. I never made that connection. So apart from digitally celebrating UBI in those ways, we're gonna sort of do street stalls. We had some ideas to in Wales, and obviously the rest of the UK, you've got and the world, you've got a major city, but then you often have sort of small towns where people don't feel represented. And so for us, it's really important to do events in Cardiff, which is a capital city, but also then the valleys where I'm from is a typically working class area, and to go there and do street stalls and just say do you know what UBI is? Would you support it? And just have a discussion really in communities where we want to help people, not just in these echo chambers of people that think the same and are all uni graduates. We want to talk to real people. So that was one of our ways forward. I don't know if you want to add anything, Leo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, so it's sort of picking up on arguments which again hasn't really been picked up before, sort of by the Yang campaign, not through any fault of its own. But it's about sort of breaching that Twitter sphere, going into actual mainstream politics. And I think Twitter is a really fantastic way of promoting things, getting support for campaigns and stuff, but a lot of people aren't on it. And if an election was decided by Twitter, we wouldn't have Trump in the US, we wouldn't have Boris in the UK. But fundamentally, people feel that there is a sort of intelligentsia which exists on Twitter. So it's just about getting into communities which need it the most, communities which might not necessarily know about UBI, and again just getting out there, speaking to people. So, and also from sort of the youth perspective as well, we're sort of going down this route that UBI isn't sort of the be all and end all. It's sort of, it creates a foundation from which we can then build a sort of a more equal and go towards an equal society. Certainly sort of with young people, what I was shocked at was that UBI campaign, forcing out UBI lab youth, hadn't even sort of thought about that. Young workers especially face wage discrimination going into jobs. For example, in the UK, you could be working in the retail sector at the age of 16, getting £4 something an hour, and you could get hired at the age of 18 for £2 more an hour, but for the same work. So just highlighting issues like that and seeing how this wage discrimination is having an impact on people, and saying how a UBI will help sort of push that in the right direction and stop that wage discrimination, because alongside a UBI, it can build the foundations for equality, so we can sort of have the real living wage being implemented, and then also ending 0 hours contracts and things like that. And also, I don't know what it's been like in the US, but in the UK, over, I think it's 620,000 jobs have been lost during lockdown, and most of those have been young people on these 0 hours contracts in precarious employment. And sort of showing how UBI, if it's implemented in the next few years, it will be a bit more expensive than the current financial system, but it's about this idea of opportunity, it's about this idea of well-being. And if we build back, it's about building back from COVID in terms of not just thinking about the economy, but thinking about the well-being of individuals, and how a UBI will help that, because fundamentally a lot of sort of mental health issues, financial stress comes about because of lack of finances. So a UBI having a certain income every week, month, whatever, however it gets implemented, will sort of help us build back.
Right. Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Leo.
I think that the main issue here is really, if you boil it all down, it's like freedom and agency. Because when we talk about like, women and children, basically like, the man, someone over his 30s or 35 and older, let's just say, is if they're like the main breadwinner, then you are at the mercy of their whims, because it's like, without them, where are you going to get your, finances? But even the breadwinner is at the mercy of whatever work or job that they work for. Because let's say that the boss is having a bad day, and then the boss takes that pressure out on the worker, and that worker is a head of a household, and he takes that pressure out on his wife and kids. And even in the corporation, it's always like there's a main manager that puts a lot of pressure on the other, managers, and then there's pressure on the salesman to like sell things, or the retail workers to like sell to the customers. And then there's all this pressure coming from the top to the bottom, because it's all linked to this money chain, this like hold. But when you give a UBI, so much of that pressure goes away, and no one can threaten anyone saying, if you don't do this or if you don't do that, I'm going to cut off this from you, or I'm going to pay you less. And like it's so much off of so many people at the same time.
Yeah, I feel that personally as well, as someone who has been working on the LGBTQIA plus side of things, trying to help people avoid homelessness in that situation, not just because of the pandemic, which is completely annihilated a lot of the people that I know's jobs, except for those who work in tech and can work from home. It's just, there's so much need for a universal basic income for these individuals in order to have the financial freedom to where, if they come out to their family when they're in high school or college, like a lot of these people in any state, I mean, it doesn't matter how blue your state is, if you have relatives that are not helpful for you being yourself, they can kick you out of your house with like no warning, and like write you out of your family and give you no support. So having a universal basic income that includes people, over the age of 13 or 14, where they have control of their own money, that would definitely help alleviate the amount of work that I personally have to do to try and do that. And I mean, it won't completely eliminate the problem, but it'll help.
I think what happens though is you are given autonomy. You get to be your own individual being, and you get to navigate the world to find your tribe. So if you don't belong to the tribe you came from, you have the ability to find one that you're accepted in, right? And it gives you that like foundation to walk on while you look around. I think like we grow up in areas where nobody's like exactly on board with who we are, how we are, right? But certain cities, maybe are a little more accepting, like Portland, Oregon, super accepting of anyone, LGBTQ, etc. And so like that's where it's safe to like come out and be yourself and just walk around, not look over your shoulder, But if you go to the South, not the same, right? So it gives you even travel money to go find your people, in my opinion.
Oh.
So I think it's
Beyond
good to have
travel people to find your proper community, this is exactly what business wants as well, and big business especially. And even if they don't realize it, this is what's going to really help them. Relocating to a community where you can produce more and find more happiness is incredibly valuable to the macroeconomy, especially international giants that rely on thousands of people being properly trained and properly placed.
I know that's been a problem with a lot of members in my family. I come from a not even lower middle class, upper lower class at best. A bunch of blue collar factory workers, retail workers, and my mom went to college multiple times on loans and grants and has multiple different degrees and certifications. But because she does not have the money to move to a larger area, that means that she's unable to utilize that because of the lack of employment opportunities in my hometown of like 13,000. Because half of them are in nursing homes, and if you don't want to wipe an old person's butt, there ain't no jobs for you.
Well, and think about it, like Flint, Michigan, I think it was, right? Where the water's bad, right? And people have spent money on their mortgages, and they were essentially stuck there, right? And they're like, well, why don't you just sell your house? And you're like, well, do you want to buy my house? Okay, that was their problem, right? Okay, go for it. Please buy me out of my they couldn't, right? Because the water's so bad though, like it was poisoning people. But anyway, yeah, so it's just this thing where we don't realize how stuck we are unless we have a little bit of escape money, if you will,
And that's the point you raised, like, the economic benefits of a UBI. But a lot of the issues in the UK probably the same as America, like kind of the fear mongering of right-wing parties is like immigration and the benefit system, and how benefit systems are like used by scroungers, which is totally untrue, and it demonizes working class vulnerable people that so badly could do with the UBI. But there's a big problem in the UK of sort of like a feeling of shame of using the benefit system. If you use the benefit system in the UK, like a lot of people say you're scrounging off the state. And so what a UBI would do is effectively there are no scroungers, if you believe that there ever were, because everyone is one. Because no matter you're a Premier League football player or you're unemployed, everyone gets a set amount of money. And so it actually takes away a huge burden and shame of using a basic, benefit system, which anyone from, we've seen in COVID, people that had great businesses that they run themselves suddenly found themselves using the benefit system. So this whole myth that is just poor people that need benefits was finally kind of, shattered in COVID. And you had people that were normally quite middle class signing up to the universal credit scheme or trying to get some benefits. And so a UBI would really just help people that need help from the government to no longer feel ashamed and no longer feel like they're, sponging off the system. But then another point in the UK that constantly comes up is a fear of like immigration, and it's very racist in its connotations. But essentially, a lot of people that claim asylum in the UK actually can't work. There's a long period of time that asylum seekers are denied the right to work in the UK, which is bonkers, because if you wanted actually people that come to the UK to work and to help our country like they so often do, then give them a UBI then, because at least then they'd have an income so that they could spend. And it's not about just giving people enough to live on, it's giving people enough to live on and more. So you don't just get benefits and you get food and pay your bills, you get a benefit.
Thank you.
You have enough to pay your bills, you have enough to go and take your children out to the cinema, you have enough to go buy clothes, so that you can actually invest in the economy. Because the way the benefit system is at the minute, you've just got enough to get by, often not even enough to get by in reality in the UK. Most people on benefits are actually in work in the UK, and like the statistics are quite shocking. So if we had a benefit system that gave people enough to have a good life, to actually invest in domestic spending and so on, it would really help the economy more. Because at the minute we just gave enough people enough to keep struggling, basically, but not actually lift them out of poverty.
It's the
Thank
exact
you
same
so
way
much.
here.
Because
Exact same
Hit
way.
the nail on the head, and that's it.
this is my critique of the minimum basic income, like Andrew Yang was piloting. Great plan, but it was still only the bare minimum. It was actually just below the poverty line. And in many places, especially high cost coastal areas or high cost tech areas or manufacturing areas, the costs of living far outstrip that benefit, and there's no disposable income going back to fuel the recirculation that our economy thrives off of. The only
Yeah.
way we actually move is because of how numerous we trade with each other. And that trade is interrupted when people can't effectively trade.
When they say that this welfare is expensive or something like that, that's not true. Because when you say something is expensive, it's like you're using something up, but you don't use up the money. The money passes from one person to another. So if you give the money to, for example, the food stamps recipients in our country, you're giving resources to them, right? You're issuing money to them, but only for food. So, but the people don't keep that money. The money doesn't stay in their account. They have to buy food with it. So it's not that you're helping them specifically, right? You're helping entire giant groups of the economy. So the entire food industry is grabbing for that money, right? I mean, so it doesn't benefit small farmers. It doesn't benefit certain types of food producers. It doesn't benefit like the small ethnic markets in my town because they don't have the ability to receive SNAP. And for some reason, it's like too difficult for them to go and, get that done. But it does benefit these giant corporations like Safeway or, like Walmart or Kroger's. They have the ability to accept SNAP, and they're the ones that benefit. So it's not just the welfare recipients that benefit. It gets used throughout the chain, and everybody who's participating in that industry is benefiting. And so the same thing, I would say right now that what we're doing is just constantly corporate aid, right? When we say, oh, we're giving this food money to welfare recipients. No, you're giving the money to these giant corporations because you're biasing who gets that money. There are a lot of people who can't afford food unless they use their food stamps. And I can't use my food stamps at the farmer's market. I can't use my food stamps at, this little tiny ethnic market. So we're actually biasing how the money is distributed in our economy. And that's what we're really looking at is fairness. So go ahead.
Oh, you're gonna summarize. It sounded like maybe.
Oh well, I'm also going towards my other comment, which is that nobody's freedom should depend on just one other person, which is what women are always in the situation of. When we're born into a household where the parents have control over you, and then at some point when you grow up, yeah, you can go out and make it in the world, but if you start having children again, once again, you're dependent on another person helping you because you can't work the same way that other adults can work. So if you are a woman, you're constantly dependent on one other person, or maybe two other people, or a very small group of people who provide you with the freedom in order to do whatever you want to do. And if that person that you're depending on is less capable, or if that person is disagrees with you philosophically about something, or wants to control you in some way, then you just have to accept it. And that could be true for other people who are not in the case of a caregiver. If you're working for a company, then your entire livelihood and freedom depends on that boss, and that maybe the boss is a terrible boss and you're constantly under that problem. So the real issue here is that freedom has to be guaranteed by the state. And if the state doesn't guarantee your freedom unless you do what your mom says, or unless you do what your husband says, then that's not real freedom.
It's freedom with contingencies, which is basically only a step or two above slavery. It's ridiculous. And as far as the needing a small group of people, if you're a woman, my father and my mother could not cohabitate or agree enough to do more than make me. So for most of my childhood, my mother struggled to be a single parent to me and my 2 siblings. My grandmother worked 2 full-time factory jobs to try and help out. And I had a lot of medical expenses because of birth defects and stuff. Thankfully, I lived in a state that had medical assistance, aka, free health care for those who were as close to the poverty line as possible. And, when I was 15, I didn't have a choice. I had to start working along and going to school. I had to start helping pay for the household bills because my mother was dating an alcoholic who spent all of our money on booze and things to, feed that addiction of his. And so, from the age of 15, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to go to college outside of the year or 2 that I could get for free through the PSEO, post-secondary occupational education program in my high school, where if your grades are high enough, you can take all your classes at the college and get college credit as well as your high school credit. So I did that. But, I had to work my butt off for, the 3 years that I had a driver's license, that I had, to finish high school, to live with my family, to help cover for this other man that didn't do their part. And pretty much ever since then, I've realized that, it doesn't even matter if, it's a single parent household, be it a mother or a father, or a 2-person household. A universal basic income uplifts everybody, and it allows everybody to spend their money in a way that hasn't been done before. And the excuses that our governments are using are the same excuses as to why they keep giving stuff like SNAP and corporate bailouts and all of that. It's because if you are a rich white person or own a very large business, you're allowed to get all the socialism that the government can offer you. But if you're not one of them, no, because Reaganomics says that the job creators, quote unquote, are the rich people. But we have seen that money given to the top doesn't get recirculated, which is why people don't think that if we get a universal basic income, that the money will be circulated through the economy and actually boost the economy, because the status quo has been giving the money to the wrong people who don't spend it, and thus they think any money that gets given out as a stimulus just goes to them and stays there and doesn't go back into the economy.
Just on, you need to check out Economic Explained's most recent video. They talk about billionaires and their savings glut, and how it's actually causing a problem in our financial markets because there's nowhere for their immense wealth to go.
I've actually seen that already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you posted a link to it.
You raised it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. Well, I wanted to touch on a couple topics. We've kind of blasted through a couple. So since I last wanted to talk. We were talking about the UBI, or not UBI, food stamps. So I'm a recipient of food stamps too. I get about $200 a month, right? And as I was helping on the Yang campaign across, I met some of these people in Iowa. But anyway, I was like, oh, we can get whatever you want. I got food stamps. They're like, what's that? And then they saw me purchase food. They look at me, they're like, it's a credit card for food. They were so excited, oh my God, you could just get food and feed yourself, right? And this person's a toothache, okay? And this was new information for them, or a debit card or whatever they called it. But they were just like, you could just get food from this? Yes. And I'm like, yeah, you can sign up. It'll help you.
I've actually had to tell friends of mine in college and who have gone out on their own and work barely enough to pay their bills. I've had to tell my friends about welfare programs because guess who was on them for most of my childhood? I know the system. I know that these things exist to help you out. And if some of these people didn't get them, they probably would have had their, newborn kids taken away, or, just had to skip meals, or, move into a crappier place. There's
Though
just so much stuff that people don't know about because of the fact that our welfare social safety net is so, pressed upon politically as the devil that we don't even educate people that they exist.
Beyond that, we have so many disparate welfare programs that cover so many different minutia that you probably are covered, but not by the program that you thought you were covered by. So there's no real collection of all these programs, and a basic income is just so much simpler.
Yeah, and it's so much simpler because all those programs take applications, and applications take time. And then not only after you apply, you have to wait for your caseworker to look over the information and then determine whether or not you signed up for the right thing. And hopefully they're good enough to point you in the right direction to the things that you need. Or instead of just saying, oh, no, you don't qualify for this one, you're screwed.
Faye,
Yeah,
did you get a chance to give your full comment?
No, it's okay. But well, with the whole food stamp thing, though, like you're right, like people don't know it exists, and there's a shame to it, but it doesn't actually. Not everyone before. I think before Corona, BC, people, would apply, and I at one point, I think was like gifted like. It was under $20 per month for food. I was like, well, that's a slap in the face. And like at that point in time, I was starving myself. I had lost a lot of weight. I could barely afford rent, right? And so it's stuff like this that lead to people making bad decisions too, right? They are well, I am dying. My food in my belly is not enough, and that's when I qualified for like less than $20. And I was like, okay, well, we either have to move, or or I feel like I'm gonna die, and it took like 1 or 2 more months before we could finally move. And but like then we moved into the crazy cat lady's house, okay, and it was because it was so cheap, we were able to afford it. But the mental terror like that we had, okay, I make it sound dramatic, but like, I mean, this woman was like it was a couple, right? And like this woman was on her boyfriend, punching him in the face. At one point threatened to slit my partner's throat. And when the internet got turned off because I couldn't afford it, they stabbed my tire. Okay. So like, because we have to settle for cheaper, we actually put ourselves in more traumatic situations even. So it's really important to make sure you're fed so you don't have to move, so that you don't have to live with people that you're not compatible with,
You say you're making it sound dramatic, but actually that type of violence is not is really not okay, and it's
No.
very extreme.
Yeah, but it's traumatizing. Imagine if a child was in there watching this, right?
And it's like it becomes a normal for some people because they live with it all the time. They just have to deal with it.
And then I found out later from the local store guy, he was like, oh yeah, most people who move out of that place end up using or like involving the cops. Like, you couldn't have warned me before I moved in with him, but yeah, it's like you settle, and we should not be settled. We should be raising the bar, if anything, right? It doesn't matter what country you are. We should be able to raise the bar of what's acceptable.
100%. That's why it's like, I love this like coming together, whether it's like the UK, Canada, hey, let's get South Africa involved, let's get Australia. It doesn't matter, because it's like we have all the evidence. That's why that like Lydia and Leo have a lab. So if we go to our elected officials with all the evidence, how can they argue with that? It doesn't make people lazy. It doesn't make people less willing to work. In fact, when I got these extended unemployment benefits, and I felt that like rush of liquidity, I felt really active, actually. I felt when I had more money, I wanted to do more things. I wanted to get more involved. I wanted to like work on things more, but they never talk about that. And we just have to get our things out there. I mean, Lydia and Leo, how active have you been in like bringing all the evidence to like your officials and things like that? And what did they have to say about it? Or do they just try to ignore you?
Oh no, we've been very active. So other than UBI Lab Youth, I'm also involved in UBI Lab Cardiff, and we've had sort of consistent interactions with members of Parliament, councillors, and also in Wales, because we've got devolved Parliament members of, it's called the Senedd, members of Senedd. And basically our campaign is being about to get as many of them on board as possible. I think in the US, like, it's very different, because like sort of a congressman or a member of the Senate is very much quite a distance away in terms of like the rungs you've got to go through, when very much in the UK, like if you know the right people or gain the right contacts, or just know sort of where to go, you can get in touch with an elected official very, very easily. And sort of just had a sort of few further comments really on I think it's sort of like the whole conversation shows the difference between the universal basic income conversation in the US compared to the UK, because sort of talk about sort of freedom and liberty, and how UBI gives you those things in that regard, which is like very much in the US context. But in the UK, I think we're sort of focusing more around sort of equality and opportunity, because it's a UBI is something again which is cross-party, but it's socialist in principles, and I think it's not about being afraid to say that we are, this is a socialist policy, but it's just about getting as many people on board as we can, as I say, and I think that's how we can get as many elected officials on board, because you sort of portray it as not only something which helps sort of the standard sort of white collar, blue collar family, but also again as many different areas as possible, sort of LGBTQIA plus women, BAME communities and everything. And sort of again coming down this idea of mental well-being, I think is the key part to this. Because with COVID, what we've seen is suicide rates going through the roof, especially in I don't know what they are in the US, but we've put physical health so much above mental health at the moment. We need to build back with this idea of mental well-being, and giving people that financial stability really does help improve mental well-being. And fundamentally in the UK, we've got universal credit. Applying for universal credit for many people is just simply degrading, because you get means tested, and it's not a good procedure at all, when as Lydia was saying earlier on, a UBI is just so simple, everyone gets the same thing. And it's sort of the idea of also quality of outcome, that you will not go below a certain poverty line, because a UBI is the line, it's the foundation. And yeah, just sort of the whole idea of message of opportunity is, I think, how we're getting our elected reps on board. I know, Lydia, you've had a lot of interaction with, especially sort of female MPs and MSs.
Yeah, so we're holding a launch event on the 29th of July for UBI Lab Women, and we've got so Scottish MP from the SNP involved, and we've reached out to quite a few different parties and different female politicians to really just try and show that it's a cross-party thing that we're pushing for, and by appealing to different parties we get the message across. And then in terms of research, it's something that we're really aware of, because we don't want to just be, what we say is true. Like there are blatant positives to this, but a lot of people will say, oh, where are the facts? Where's the evidence? Where's the statistics? So, there's only been a few trials, but the trials have shown exactly what we've been saying. So we tend to, look at those. But for our launch event, we're going to write a paper, and it'll be an academically referenced paper that will look at research that's gone before. And then long term it'd be great to do our own research, but I know Cardiff, we're hoping to get a pilot scheme, so it just sort of having the pilot schemes will be a good way of gathering our own Welsh research and British research in our own countries. But aside from that, I think the argument that when you give people like more free time or more money that they become lazy has almost been proven wrong with COVID, because obviously a lot of people have been pushed to the poverty line and haven't had like an income or freedom to do things. For some people in the UK, like myself, I've been furloughed, and so I've had a lot of free time and I've still had my income come in. And so in that time, like I've got massively involved in UBI. I've been on Zoom calls with politicians, with friends, talking about really important things. I've organized as a political activist with people in America, with people like, you know, everywhere. So everyone seems to have been has done something for themselves if they've been in the right frame of mind and they've had an income. They've used their free time positively, whether it's like painting, going on more walks.
So anyway, you guys, thanks for the thing. This is my hard stop. I got it about in one minute. So yeah, I really think that like all countries, you know, across the world can collaborate on this. We can use logic, evidence, science, labs to like go and do something in our own media with our elected officials. And I'm just going to say my Twitter handle like we usually do. You guys can find me at Ariel's Armada. So that's at ARIELS_ARMADA. And you can also find me on YouTube as Revolutionary Thinking. So Leo and Lydia, if you want to have this conversation too, and out there, we can also do it on my YouTube channel. But other than that, I think that we're all in agreement about like all of our basic things that we think about that a UBI will help with. And we just got to go after the ones who are skeptical and kind of show them the evidence.
It'd be
Thank you
nice if
so much
some of
for
them-
introducing us, Ariel. Thank you for introducing us to our new guests today.
My pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much, Ariel.
We'll see you later.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Bye, Ariel.
Hi.
So I would like to hear, like he cut you off, Lydia, just a tiny bit, but I understand why. I would love to hear a little more about what you were saying, though, if you want to continue.
So just sort of in the way that obviously in the US lockdown's been done differently. In the UK and in Wales, it's gone on for a long time, and we've had a lot of people haven't had access to furlough. So I don't want to talk on behalf of the people that have struggled, but some people like myself, I've been furloughed, and so I've coped well in lockdown. And with the free time that I've had, you know, I've been able to like learn a new skill. And so the argument is often if people have like, if you give people money, if you give people more time, like they'll just be lazy or they won't be productive. But sort of just by looking at some examples of like lockdown, a lot of people have like just spent more time with family. A lot of people in the recent Black Lives Matter protests across the UK, like a lot of people have never been to a protest before, had the time to research online why the Black Lives Matter protests were important and went. Like a lot of my friends that have never been to protests were going. So I think it gives people the time to be like politically engaged, to educate themselves, to even just like calm down and read a book. Like it gives people time to do whatever they want. And I think that's the important thing. It doesn't give people the luxury to do nothing. It gives them the luxury to do anything. And so it's really important to stress that and to debunk this argument that people are just inherently lazy and they're just going to, you know, use the money for no good. Because I think a lot of the actions of people in this pandemic have been caring, and people have come together and really helped one another. So I think it shows where you have a bit more than someone else, you'll often share it and do good
Lydia.
things. So really good.
Lydia, when you say, you know, people might use this money for no good, you're describing the current paradigm, but who defines what's good for humans to do? Right now, I think the idea that there are some things that are good and some things that are bad doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, the only thing I can think of that's really bad is if you're hindering somebody else from doing what they want. So I find it interesting. I mean, I think if the human decides that what they want to do is laze around on the beach all day, right? If they're able to somehow manage to do that, then we should be happy for them. We should applaud that.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I don't
and
think I've ever been to a beach.
Well, there you
I
go.
think-
Maybe you should make it a bucket list item.
I feel that in the UK, we are, more to the left. So some of the ideas in the UK will just fly a bit easier. People are, because we've got like the NHS, I think people are more understanding like universal services. So we have sort of got an easier sort of conversation to be had then. But again, there is still that argument of like, oh no, you have to work to earn a wage. But this is going on to another argument in the UK where we want to try and get like a 4-day working week, and some parties are opposed to that and some parties aren't. But I think after COVID, like you'll see people working from home more, and like you said, more of a relaxation on what is good and what is bad. And I think it is good for people to do a bit less sometimes, and it makes people more productive when they are working. But that's probably nothing to do with UBI, really. A bit of a weak link there.
I mean, there's been
beyond-
studies about that for decades about how giving people vacation time, giving people, paid family leave time is a good thing. But in the United States, anything that isn't working yourself to death, literally to death, is seen as a horrible thing, because the only way that our ruling class, which includes many of both parties, because that's how far right our country's gone in the last 30 years, in order to keep, the people from voting them out of power, from being, educated enough and intellectual enough to know that they're being lied to and cheated, that, the only way is to make it as hard as possible for people to be humans, to live as humans, to, have time to look up what their representatives are actually doing. And they're seeing so much right now with the coronavirus, with protests and people actually calling and emailing and writing letters to them all the time, that it's just, we're finally peeling back the veil of how we've been indoctrinated into thinking that work is good. Work is the only thing that we're supposed to do. It doesn't matter if you work and your job doesn't allow you to go vote. It doesn't matter if your job doesn't allow you to, spend time with your sick kids. It doesn't matter if your job doesn't allow you to take care of your mother when she's dying of cancer. Like, that's what we've been trained for the last 30 to 40 years. And to finally start seeing that, okay, we're still surviving, and most of us aren't working right now, living off of, unemployment or what little stimulus we got, and, gig work and the charity of others. Like, people are realizing that no matter what the statistics are that we can bring to our representatives in the United States, our representatives aren't going to listen. So the only option is to vote them out.
So
Yes.
does the welfare system work the same in the UK as in the US?
No, it's very, very different. So in the US, like, what I was really shocked about, because I've met a few people from the US before, and I was just shocked that you guys didn't have like free healthcare. So like, for example, we've had free healthcare since 1948 in the UK, and I think
every time that we've tried to get it like you guys, they bring up the lovely thought about, oh, then the lines will be so long and you'll never be able to get in to see a doctor. But we need more people. Like, have you ever actually had to wait in line for 7 hours to go see a doctor?
No,
We don't even have real elections. We can't have healthcare until we have real elections here. That's. I mean, who knows? Maybe we can, but we also don't have real elections. Anyway, that's a big tangent. Please continue.
I'm glad to hear from you, Shell. I mean, if we have the problem with our healthcare system being in the hands of the private corporations is that you depend on your boss already for your living, and now you have to depend on them for healthcare as well. And they can even make a trade-off. will only pay for your health care if you accept less pay. And it's just, it's
Do you
unbelievable.
want more
how many-
pay
only
or do
that-
you want health care?
Not only that, they can also restrict specific health care from women because of religious grounds.
And
Or
they
just the fact that you might get pregnant. Like if I go and try to buy private health care in the United States, it's $300 more per month for a woman who simply checks the box that, yes, I might get pregnant this year. If you just say that, it will be $300 more per month
And
for
that's why you lie.
private insurance. And
That
that's
is
why
actually-
incredible.
That is mental. Mhm.
Yeah,
that's
you
just
might
that-
need a C-section. That's $20,000 in the United States at any major
Right.
hospital.
Yeah, it's just like, and a lot of people see the UK as being quite a conservative with a small C country, and like it's surprised that we have universal healthcare, and I think that's just the argument sort of need to say, like we've had it since 1948 with no real hiccups. So again, like the NHS has come something of a real sort of source of national pride, I think, especially during COVID.
I mean, the Olympics,
True in
right?
Taiwan as well. If we're very divided on the issue of whether or not to return to China peaceably, right, or whether to stay independent. So there's great division and racism in Taiwan politics because we also have immigrants coming, but everybody is proud of our healthcare system. Absolutely everybody, you know. So
yeah, no, we were so proud until about a couple of weeks ago. We would go out and clap on our doorsteps every Thursday at 8 p.m. For our health. It was called #ClapForCarers, and I think the NHS brings together sort of everyone from the left to the centre right. There are some people who want to get rid of the NHS in the UK, but that's a vast minority of people. And also I think a big part of UBI and how it links in sort of universal healthcare is that we need to fundamentally change the way we view tax, because I think the UK, this is a consistency between the UK and the US, is that if a government raises tax, then they're going to go down in the polls, when we should really view taxation as something which is a civic duty, especially of people like billionaires and
absolutely
higher income. We need progressive taxation, and that's how we're going to pay for a UBI. And when a UBI gets dished out, however much money it is a week or a month or whatever, most of that money will be clawed back through taxation from those who might not necessarily need it. But it's just the idea that a UBI is there. And I think, since Thatcher and Reagan in the 80s, like this idea of raising tax and inflation has been just so frowned upon, when we need to say to people, look, if you pay more tax, more people benefit. So yeah, just like reforming the whole tax system is so important.
I was mentioning earlier how Economics Explained released a video talking about how the billionaires and trillionaires now that we're having don't have any decent investment for their money. And the best investment really right now is in national equity to reduce such social violence that we're seeing, because taxes have been so ridiculously low. Even in America, there is no tax bracket to account for millionaires. They cut off after 100,000.
250,000, I think.
Yeah, that's still $250,000. It's not even $500,000 a year.
Do you
And we
guys
could easily
That was a
account for
recent
20
development
million.
too, because I think back when Bush was in office, he got rid of that top tax bracket over 500,000 a year.
Faye, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious. Do you guys have credit scores there? I don't know if you guys do. Do you know what I'm talking about?
We have credit checks if you want to
Yeah.
get more stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think that
Do
is.
people use your credit report to decide whether you can have a job or whether you can stay in an apartment, in a flat?
I don't think it's as discriminatory here. The issue is, it's hard because if you're someone like myself, I've luckily never been in debt. I've lived with my parents until this year. So because I've never been in debt and had to pay anything back, I have a really bad credit score. If I was in debt and was paying things back, I'd have a good credit score. So even the credit score, how it works is just mad, because you should be in debt to make yourself have a good credit score. to show you can pay something back, when actually if you had no debts, which means that you're doing quite well, doesn't make you obviously
Yeah, it's very backwards. You should start with a good credit score when you enter into the, adulthood, system, instead of the bad credit that they give you because you have no credit history. It's like, since you have no
This
credit history,
follows-
they assume you're just not going to pay your bills.
This follows our major macroeconomic theory that everyone has a right to debt, and that debt is what actually fuels most of consumer spending and production that will hopefully create more wealth than the debt is worth in our inflationary economies.
Yeah, it's bonkers to me.
No, because
Except like I can't get a loan to get anything. I have atrocious credit score. It's just disgusting. But like because of that, I only had like $600 or $700 in debt that it was medical, and I decided not to pay it apparently, and like now my credit score is absolutely bad, right? But I could not apply for like a business loan. I can't apply for a car. I can't apply for a lot of things. And it becomes this discriminatory thing because I can't even like without like any UBI or anything else, I can't be fully nomadic and survive and even try and start any monopoly empire if I so desired, because I can't even get the loan to even like get a footing into this world. And like I'm sure everybody's credit is kind of like crashing right now, right? Like everybody, like I have a friend, she's like, I just paid it off and now this happened, and it's just like so stressful to her that it's causing her, her hair is falling out, okay, that's how bad it is. And like that's what like this society and COVID is doing to people. It's not healthy, man.
No, it is not.
the credit thing is really strange, because when you get older, you have this other problem where you may have a lot of money, you may have assets sitting in the bank now because you've been working your whole lifetime, you've been saving, you've been doing everything you were supposed to do. But if you go into retirement and you stop working and you don't have a stream of income from something, supposing you didn't buy real estate and you're not, making rent, and you no longer have a stream of income, even though you have money in the bank, your credit score also plummets, because you have to always have a stream of income. If you don't have a stream of income, then you're seen as your credit not credit worthy. Even if you have the money in the bank, you could just pay it.
In the credit equation, it's your income per year versus your overall debt position. So that's the problem, and that ratio is what judges that. So when you do drop to zero income, it's horrifyingly magnified.
So maybe with that in mind,
you can't even buy a house even if you have them, unless you just buy it with cash, because you have no credit. So you can't go and just get a loan.
Just an idea occurred to me. Maybe with that in mind, a productive argument could be made to some of the wicked masters of the universe that, hey, all this poverty is making people debt averse. If we give everybody $2,000 a month, they'll be more comfortable taking out loans. They'll be more comfortable going into debt. Wouldn't you like that, you evil demon? And
I
be
mean,
like, yes, right?
They've never heard of the old adage of a rising tide raises all ships. You're a billionaire now, but if you allow people to get an income of $2,000 per month as a universal basic income, then that means that in the United States, that's 300 million people having $2,000 extra to spend every month. How long before you become a trillionaire?
Oh no, that's like handful of years we'd have the first cold hard cash trillionaire.
Exactly.
This is actually more powerful than that, because the reason I think that the masters of the universe, as you put it, have chosen not to implement a basic income of at least $4,000, because $4,000 a month is where people stop committing suicide en masse, is because of debt. if we started operating purely off of cash, there would be far less enforcement through the financial system and through the central bank system, because people would actually be able to just straight up pay for shit instead of using a credit card or a loan or collecting, taking a collection.
But then they can just raise the prices on, homes and cars arbitrarily because they control what things cost. Problem
What
solved.
I'm saying is that there could actually be a massive deflationary spike in prices because everyone stops buying loans and stops using the major overvaluation that loans cause. For
I
example,
fully understand. I just know that these people are, if they can't raise the prices on common goods because that stuff is based on supply and demand, then they can call having a home a luxury and a car a luxury, the same way that they do when you fill out your applications for debt relief or any form of social safety net welfare programs. So I mean, they own all of the banks, they own all of the ability for people to buy real estate. They can just raise the cost of real estate and cars, and they can make up for it there, and they probably will.
what I'm
So-
saying is that central banks only have so much power over their loans. The realtors and the supply and demand of the markets are really what causes that. So if people suddenly don't need to take loans, they could negotiate prices down much easier.
So one big problem that I know the UK is facing as well is that a lot of people who are very wealthy are putting their money somewhere. They have to put it somewhere where they think it's going to make them more money while they're doing, right? And so what they do is they buy up all the real estate, and they don't have enough people. Like they're just one person, but they own all this real estate, and so all of that real estate can't be lived in. Some of the best homes in the best locations in London are taken because of that, and then they just go to waste. They kind of get
exact
degraded
same-
because it's an investment and they don't need to keep it fixed up or anything, not maintained. And
We have
You mean the
falling
Trump
apart.
method?
The exact same thing happened in Rome, and it's theorized as the first economic bubble that we could call a recession in today's times. The government forced all the nobility to start taking a serious plurality of land as part of their portfolios.
Lydia,
Yeah,
do
we-
you have something on that?
We definitely have like a housing crisis in the UK where we're not building enough homes and we don't have enough homes. And we also have a massive homelessness crisis that could be solved, but is not being solved. In COVID, everyone that was homeless was housed. Not everyone, but was given the opportunity to be housed, and hotels opened up for homeless people. But after COVID, and now those people have just been thrown back onto the streets with nowhere to live. And in all the major cities across the UK, we have like sweeping gentrification where people are buying up the property, the house prices are going through the roof. The people that are actually from those areas can't live there anymore. And so they're being pushed out to worse housing for higher cost. And it's just basically taking any culture out of capital cities and putting in a bunch of middle class rich people. But that's happening everywhere.
I had heard that way beyond what you're describing is that people from foreign countries are wanting to invest in London properties because they need to put their money somewhere where they think that the price of that property will continue to go up. So it's an investment, like investing in fine art. You can, have a painting that's worth $37 million, and they put it on the wall, and there it is, $37 million on the wall.
Yeah, there's
they expect it to maybe go up in price because it's going to be only that one painting, for the next century, and somebody else will buy it for 50 million in a few years when there's even more money to go around. So, and I believe that there's been like Russians and Arabs and Chinese people coming in and trying to buy those properties, right in down, like the city, like the best parts of the city.
Yeah, like that happens definitely. There's like foreign investment, but it doesn't really benefit people of London that much because obviously like no one lives in them, like you said. But then there's many ways the rich avoid paying tax, and one of them is obviously the Cayman Islands and so on. But I'm sure we could go on talking about that for a long time. But I'm afraid me and Leah will have to pop off now because we're gonna have dinner. But thank you so much for the opportunity to join and get your perspective, because it's a very similar but also different perspective on a lot of issues. Really
Would you-
Oh
interesting.
my gosh, thank
I would say
you.
the same to you. Thank you so much
Would
for
you
coming.
share your Twitter?
Oh yeah, I have to actually check because, like Leo said, we're very in
I put I saw a twitter.com/UBI Lab Youth. Is that correct? Is that yours, or is there another
Yeah,
one?
so that's UBI, that's ours.
And
then-
my personal Twitter's Lydia_Godden, and then we have UBI Lab Women, and our name is at UBI Lab Women, which is pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Cool.
I'm so sorry. What was the UBI one?
I think Faye's just popped in the chat. Yeah.
And then my personal Twitter, if you want it, is at Leo Holmes 1999, because that's the year of my birth. And
Get
I
out of
think
town.
yeah. So yeah, no. Thank you for
So you're
inviting
1
us.
year older than my
You
son.
young people.
My oldest son was born in 2000.
Oh, there we are. Yeah.
Thank you
It's
so
good
much
to
for
have
joining us. Can you come
No,
back?
thank- Yeah, we'll
Might you
definitely come
become
back.
regulars?
Yeah. And, yeah. No, apologies, you had to go. It's the time difference.
Absolutely.
It's 6:30.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving us your time. The last time I put 99 in my email address, it was because it was the year 1999. So there we go.
No,
Good
thank
night,
you so
good night,
much.
you, or good
Evening.
morning, or what time? I don't know what time it is, but
Evening.
Yeah. Good evening to
Dinner
you
time.
both. Thank you again. We'll be
Dinner
in
time,
touch.
yeah. Thank you so
It
much.
was very
guys.
good meeting you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Have a beautiful dinner.
Have a good evening, guys
All right.
and
Well,
gal.
What nice
do you
youths.
do you guys want to continue, or do you want to go ahead and sign off now? I haven't talked to Faye in a while.
I wanted to talk just a little bit longer, if that's cool with you
Sure,
guys.
yeah.
Is everyone
Uh,
okay with that?
Well, did you want to go through the trending on Twitter right now? Because Trump decided to make another lovely dumb statement about how he wants to cut all of the funding to university systems in the United States because of the mythical radical left indoctrination.
Huh. Man,
And now it's
I-
trending.
I am not as against that as you might think. The
I think
university
that
system is very bad. We have a very ossified, corrupt university system, and it is very intertwined with our electoral politics problems, where if you don't go to the right places, there's no way you get to the certain offices.
I fully
think
agree with
I think
you
for
there,
the wrong reasons. But
his
also,
explanation is
but
blaming it
I
on
will tell you
Antifa
something
and
more
leftists.
provocative, Don. I will tell you something more provocative that's more closely aligned with what he probably means. Not exactly what he means, but
They're not paying him to go to Trump University?
no, there is a sort of virulent brand of neoliberalism that is indoctrinated into people at universities. And it's a very hot button issue, because if you criticize it, people will say, well, you're just, you're a bigot in this way or that way, or because it's all about intersectionality and that whole paradigm. And it was a paradigm designed to protect people with no power, but it was co-opted by people with power, and it's being used to protect the status quo. It's being used to conflate issues of class with other issues to prevent meaningful gains from happening on economic fronts. So I mean, I keep trying to say you guys have to watch Professor Adolf Reed. He just did a couple things on Jacobin that are really good about this, and he
Mr. Post in the chat.
he is a black man, and he was in the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s, and he's an old professor, and he is saying right now institutional anti-racism is doing for the status quo, for the elites, for the powerful to maintain their position of power, what institutional racism used to. So there is a bit of that, I think, going through university.
I've definitely seen that from circles of academia in the UK as well as here in the US. But there's a deeper cynicism that could be reached with this if Trump really fully intends to make universities no longer tax exempt. He would be literally taxing government cash from students.
Well, I mean, I think if that makes I think the university system should implode upon itself, and we should find a better way to educate ourselves and figure out who's credentialed. So good. That's me. I'm an accelerationist. So let Trump hang himself, I say. Yeah, let Trump destroy himself with the other bad people, with the other crooks. I mean, like the other bad systems, the other bad organizations, the other mafias. You know?
That's a great long-term view, but short-term, millions of students will not be able to buy food or pay for rent or get gas in their cars.
Give them a basic income, I say.
Well, I'm all for it, but still, right now, he could literally tax money out of students' hands.
That's a good point. I don't want that to happen right now. I would like the problems in the university system to be corrected in other ways, but what is one to do?
I mean, I'm still waiting for my student loan to be forgiven because it was through a predatory lender and a non-accredited for-profit school that said that it wasn't an unaccredited for-profit school. So
I have a feeling that he's not going to let graduates go either with this. I'm imagining he could tax the interest before it goes to the principal.
Oh yeah, I fully feel that. But no, right now, actually, right before this started, I grabbed the mail and got a paper form of the email I got last week about how Miss DeVos, the education secretary, is trying to make a settlement with those of us who have had our defensive repayment just stuck on our desk, because I filed mine in 2016 while Obama was still in office, and it's been in the process of being looked at for 4 years now.
Damn.
And in that 4 years, the school I went to has gone bankrupt, along with a lot of other schools that are similar.
So it looks like Sheridan has to go.
Yeah, should we go ahead and say goodbye since Sheridan is also taking off now?
I mean, I didn't get to what I wanted to talk to, but that's okay.
Okay, let's say goodbye to Sheridan.
Let me just bounce out. Thank you, everyone. It was
do you want to share your Twitter?
I am. It was a very stimulating conversation. Thank you, everyone. You can find me on Twitter at JSaberGamer, JSaberGamer. It was great. Have a good day, all. Wash your hands. Stay safe.
That's always good to
wear
have
a damn mask.
Wear a damn mask.
See you next time.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
So the thing that I wanted to talk about was actually this show called The Colony. It was made back in 2014, or at least that's when it was uploaded to YouTube. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole first and second.
I'm trying to remember when it came out, because I remember that I was in college when it came out, so it was definitely before 2014.
Okay. But essentially it was this experiment they did where it was post-apocalyptic. The setting was LA, and there was a massive pandemic. Oh, look, all this sounds really familiar, doesn't it? Okay, anyway, but they...
And there you are right now, right?
I know, I'm literally
at the location of the colony.
It's a little, like, it messes with me a little bit, but that's fine. Anyway, so, but there was more dead people and a lot less structure left, right? And so these people had, like, sleep deprivation, they had to travel, they had to scavenge for food, and, like, the first season was, like, all these, like, really smart people, and they were trying to reestablish society, and so they had to, like, create power, and they had to essentially they were inventing all these things, and eventually it became like creature comforts, you know, but like they had to do a lot of work and nothing was automated, right? It was the most exhausting thing possible. And then like their mental bandwidth kept dropping and dropping, right? And when they had these other threats, they, you know, just normal everyday people who, you know, could probably handle their shit well enough, you know, end up like yelling and screaming, and they're like the what is that called? Scarcity mindset was like hardcore, right? And then I thought about like universal basic income in comparison to a situation like this, and it's impossible. So if we let our structure go, right, universal basic income is kaput. It doesn't necessarily help anybody, right? Because we don't have the automation to even free our hands up to do any of this. And for me, I feel like we shouldn't drop down to like that desperate of a situation. But you know, in some areas where maybe a tsunami happens or a tornado or whatever happens, right? Like you lose these resources, and to recover becomes even more difficult, right? But if like ownership of the building, because they were in this warehouse, right? And then the owners walk in with a key and they're like, you know, it's no longer their, you know, place, or it becomes this challenge, and like anything you've invested goes away, right? Like you could have spent all your money and had money in a safe, but money's useless in an environment like this. People need food, they need water, they need, you know, necessities. And it's just like, think about what kind of benefits we have just simply because we have the society built that we have now. And why would we not optimize it so that everybody could be like a little more freed up? And it goes to show that if you're not working as a team, you know, you're going to have internal struggle. You're gonna be snappier, and especially if you're hungry, you know, and you're losing weight, you know, and like they got mad at someone, the person who had the key. They came in and like took a 30-minute shower and it used up all the water that they had collected, right? And so that like caused a huge rift, and they got in a big fight with these people. Now, in the beginning of the season, like these people were like head on their shoulders, violence bad, like communication good. And as you watch the show progress, you see like they had to do this for 10 weeks, right? They're falling apart within the first couple weeks, you know. And
do you think it's a really do you think it was very realistic? Because people have disproven that people behave like young men would behave the way that Lord of the Flies, you know, wrote people to behave. So do you believe that this this colony would really happen in our real lives right now? Does it seem realistic?
I think if we lost power, if we lost communication, if we lost running water, a lot of this I think would probably occur, because that means we actually have to do the foraging for all this stuff, right? And we can't pay someone else to do it, right? Like that's not even a thing we can do in a society like this. I think if these particular things were cut off, it would cause a lot of problems. Now, I'm staying in a tent for a week, and I had to carry my water in, and it's hot, right? Like I can't even, like you couldn't even live in certain areas if the power went off, right? Because people live in deserts. It's just hot. And then, you know, you gotta give yourself a bird bath, you know, if you want to be clean, and you have to, you know, like, but I was lucky that the water was already filtered, right? They had to filter their own water even. But it's the other countries already to this point, you know, they already have all these struggles. But if
I would actually say it the other way around, that everybody had a way of living that was a traditional way of life that worked. And then we've destroyed those traditional ways of life and created this whole new society where everyone's independent on it's not independent, but actually interdependent on other people providing things that are absolutely crucial to their survival. So it's not just that we need somebody else to build the cars, because we can't individually build a car. We can't even get water or food without other people now. and we don't even know how to build a shelter. Whereas this is why I've been saying that if I were trying to find someplace else to live during this pandemic, and then if there became a apocalyptic sort of situation for us, I would rather go to Mexico than to go to Canada, because I sense that Canada is more similar to us. Whereas in Mexico, there are vast areas where people just live a traditional life and don't need very much from trading. And I think that's ultimately what protects people, is not participating in this new modern economy.
Well, I would disagree with you on that in some spots, mostly because even though there is a lot of technological improvements that are used for rural areas of the United States, there's still a large amount of us out here that know how to do some of the basic stuff. We know how to, boil water, because rural areas, sometimes the water will have issues, and it's well water, so you got to boil the water, you got to deal with all that stuff. And then you've also usually got farm animals, so you've got food, you've got crops, you've got people who know how to make and build things. So I mean, it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be as comfortable as this is now, but there are some areas in rural America that might be habitable and weather an apocalyptic scenario a bit better. I would definitely not want to be here in this part of Montana because of the water situation. It gets really dry. And so, if it became a drought all of a sudden, and we didn't have the technology to be able to predict the weather and see that rain was coming, water sources can dry up for days on end. I mean, I have gone over many creeks that are used as watering holes for livestock that are free ranging on large swaths of land. They will have a giant pond one day, and then the next day it's all grass again because the water is either evaporated or gone into the ground, because there's going to be long stretches of dry periods. So if I was going to go to a rural area, I'd go back to my home state of Minnesota, because land of 10,000 lakes. What do we have? Fresh water.
I think water is it is one of the basic necessities to life, right? And so but it just blows my mind how little we are making sure this infrastructure is actually even safe. I mean, I was talking about Flint earlier, but there are people I met some people in LA one time. They were talking about the metals in their blood. It was from the water they were drinking, and they were very sick from just metals in their blood that shouldn't be there, right? And they I don't know exactly how they cleansed their blood, but they felt so much better when they were done, right? And it's just we don't even take care of something so vital to our existence, and even our sewage system, right? We aren't allowing people bathroom access in some places, and homeless people are sleeping where they're shit, and it's not healthy. And I think it might not be worth it.
This kind of general everything not working all at once can only happen when all your incentives are not aligned properly. So much human endeavor has been going in the wrong direction. We've lost track of the ability to focus on where value actually comes from, because we keep talking about money. But the money has no value in and of itself. The only thing that determines value is how much humans need it. So the basic human needs should be of the most valuable, and yet they shouldn't also be the most expensive. So that doesn't make any sense. The thing we need most is clean air, because if you don't breathe for a moment, you will die. Then we need clean water, and yet these are the things that should be the cheapest, right? I mean, nobody should have to pay for clean air or pay for clean water. So it's our incentives being not aligned properly is really it's killer. It kills every single day without us without anybody saying, "Oh, I did violence today," and yet it's the most violent thing we could be doing to our population.
It's not like it's we think it seems unthinkable, a future where you pay for like clean air, for like pristine bottled air or something, but man, it could happen. I could see, you go to the convenience store, you get a tank of fancy good air, you put in your air filter so you can breathe good for 4 hours. Like, that could be America.
Yeah.
That's a very American
That is
way of
actually
doing
an
it.
American way thing. Totally
Why
American.
are we this way? I don't know. It's
Spaceballs.
so hard not to despair. Yeah, Spaceballs. Or yeah, didn't the Super Mario movie also do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like Faye Donnie was saying. Shows, movies prepare us for the future, right? So get ready for buying air, branded air.
Or we use those movies as a point of aversion where we're like, nah, I'm good. Maybe I will
Jack
do
Mad
some,
Max. We will not be Mad Max, but
I mean, we're already an idiocracy, so
That's the Canadian way. That's what Canadians do. They're like, I don't want to be an American movie. I'm going to give health care to people. And now they're going to have a UBI.
true. Canadians do have an aversion to our Hollywood movies. You're right.
And rightfully so. Right.
So they learn from the movies and then they create action plans for change so they don't like fall into those, right? So we
Right.
have organizations like Friends of Trees that plant trees. Okay. Oh, imagine that. And algae is actually really good for oxygen too or something. I don't remember.
it's
But
also good as a biofuel. And if you're using the right algae, you can actually create electricity from it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So we just need more swamps, huh?
but that's the
Just
thing though.
the right kind of swamp, not the kind
I'm
that
tired of trying to drain all our natural swamps. All right, we need
Joe
them.
Biden's going to come on and be like, we're all going to breathe a little less, just a little. Everybody's going to breathe less equally.
But now we have concrete jungles, right? So we're not actually living in a symbiotic relation to Earth, really. We're not. Like the water that does come from the sky can't get absorbed on a concrete covered land, right? And like we're talking about housing and stuff like that. And like honestly, I bet you we have enough housing. There's just enough people with a second house that aren't letting somebody live there, or hotels, but even
Oh no,
hotels,
the
okay.
numbers are there on that. We have like 3 vacant homes or apartments for every homeless person
I
in
heard
the United
6.
States. 6 now?
I heard
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's at between 3 and 6, we'll call it. Okay, so it is an absolute tragic embarrassment either way, and a demarker that society has been broken for a long time, and it is severely broken.
Speaking about homelessness, I will bring up a lovely thing that my wife and I discussed this morning, considering the fact that our representatives have taken a 2-week vacation to not vote on new stimulus or extending the unemployment benefits. And people haven't been paying their rent since March in a lot of cities. Apparently, a third of New York residents in New York City and all the boroughs do not have the ability to pay their rent. But because of the way that our system, 1/3, the way our system works though, is that when those landlords start collecting, and some of them already have, or at least have started filing eviction notices during the pandemic because people haven't been able to pay, we're going to have millions upon millions of people out on the street in a very short period of time. And the last time that something like that happened, what happened at the beginning of the Great Depression when people lost their homes? People made tent cities on the lawn of the White House.
So
that's going to happen again. We're going to go from Hoovervilles to Trumpville.
Let me try a square
in a
circle
couple
before we
weeks.
get too far off this. Let's see. Let's try to remember, you and me, this moment, and see if in 3 months academia has not spun this as a non-class issue, as like they're out on the street because of some other facet of intersectionality than money, because they will do anything to make it about not money. Let's see. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm right, let's make a note.
Documented.
Hey,
this
I
is
feel
why
you
I
on that
get
too,
upset.
but I feel you on that they're gonna find a way to make it not about money, but it is so about money.
Now listen, this was I can't make jokes about it because it's a sensitive topic and we are living in like a very Victorian kind of time, like an inquisition of sorts. So I'm going to just say that. I'm
Yes,
done.
Faye.
You
Capitalism
can,
is just as
you
much of a
can.
fail, especially
So,
right now.
Well, I
well,
mean, look,
that's, I get,
okay, here,
I
this
get
is
very
a joke I can't make.
frustrated.
I'll make it like, I'll make it, I'll make the framework. It's like,
Okay.
and they're going to say they're not out on the street because they couldn't pay the rent. They're out on the street because of disadvantage X, you know, and I don't want to pick on a particular disadvantaged group, but they'll be like, no, the people in this fucking block, disadvantage X, nothing to do with the economy. We shouldn't be so bigoted against disadvantage X. And that's how they're going to try to spin it. And that's the poison that they're going to try to shoot through us on the left. So we got to watch out for that gaslighting. All right.
Mm-hmm. It's not the corporation's fault. It's somehow the people's fault because they are of this group. Yes.
No. It's the system for discriminating against this group, but it's not.
Oh, the system is discriminating against.
So they have half their right. It's like, oh, it's not their fault. It's not individual responsibility. It's systemic responsibility, but not because of money. It's because of their, disability, ethnicity, culture, religion, sexuality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anything but money. It'll be like, it's not their fault that they're on the street. They were evicted because of their intersectionality X,
So how do we avoid them doing this?
Nothing. We
Sham?
just got to listen to him and be like, okay, you are distracting us because you want to preserve the status quo, because you want to preserve your power, because you're connected to big money.
Well,
And
about
also,
that,
we're discriminating
there's-
against people who don't have money. How about just that?
there's a thing that's supposed to happen tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be able to participate because I don't know where my representative lives, but there has been through the Yang Gang a proposal, because our representatives have gone on vacation, to occupy their lawns, to go to their houses and protest at their houses, at their places of business, because they are failing us. They are not doing their job.
You're talking about Congress people? The
Yeah,
homes of Congress
the
people?
people's stimulus. To petition for a people's stimulus.
I think we need to talk.
Okay.
I think we need a justice to come onto our show and talk to some people. We'll get Scott Santons to talk to a justice of the U.S. and then we'll also maybe. I think we need, because if you think about it, we're kind of lobbyists, but we're not, right? We're not technically.
We're lobbyists without the large sum of money.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah,
we don't have any money for lobbying in that sense.
But see, that's the problem. Yeah, right. Okay, so that's what this show's about, right? We have the opportunity to lobby people without actually having to go through some of the process. But really, it's just discussions. We're a think tank, right? And we're like, hey, by the way, did you know these are some parts of the formula you haven't even considered? Have you heard of this thing? And just like plant seeds. Like it could be all them who come to the conclusion, but like just the thing is, we are not reaching high enough. I think we need to almost just like get people as high as we can. I mean, of course we're trying, of course, but like,
I mean, it would totally feed the ego of a lot of people to try and have them on our podcast. Be like, hey, Senator X, you're trying to get reelected. How's about you come on this podcast and try and tell us why our views are terrible and you need to be reelected? Hey, Donald
she's
Trump.
talking about justices, which are you're talking about a different aspect of the government. If you have three aspects,
yeah.
I'm actually thinking earlier today when we were discussing before we got on the podcast, I was thinking it would be great if we could replace all of our politicians with algorithms and bots.
Yeah, that was the discussion we were having in the Twitter DMs. Yes, and that's a great idea, because guess what? Robots can't get you to emotionally, connect with an issue the same way that a person can, with the inflection of their voice and the their attempts at evoking emotions with the way that they present their views.
Can I also add something? Their stomach doesn't get to play a point in it. Okay, there are actual studies that judges who are hungry will be more like hammered down than after they eat lunch, right? They're actually quite nice after they eat food. So if we have judges that like their mood is dependent also on how hungry they are, we have a broken system, right? That like that should not have any effect, but it does. Like, I mean, it's been a while since I've looked at the study, but like, yeah, like if you have judges, okay, that are affected by food, imagine what you got politicians affected by. Okay, like it's just.
Well, that's why there was who was it that one of the comedians had suggested that what we need to do is slip a little bit of weed into the legislators.
Was that
food and drink, and then
was that Cheech Marin, Tommy Chong? I'm trying to think of all the pro weed ones. David Chappelle. God.
There are plenty of them. I'm sure might be more than one of them have suggested this, but I actually think it might be a good idea to do some.
I'm pretty sure that
before you go in there and start talking about something.
I'm pretty sure Carlin suggested LSD back in the 70s, but.
Well, was it Angela? Angela was saying like Trump was acting like he was on acid. It's like, no, that's really, you don't know what people on acid act like. You can't be an egomaniac on an ego suppressant. So Angela was like, okay, that's a fair point. Let's.
So I actually want to talk about this theory I have. Okay.
Little tiny bit of sorry.
So the connection between narcissism and the reticular activating system that I brought up a few times. Now, if you haven't heard of me talk about it, it's essentially the part of the brain that finds evidence for whatever you believe, right? I'm a genius. I'll find evidence. I'm an idiot. I'll find evidence, right? It's non-biased, right? But narcissists believe their lies, okay? And so if they believe their lies, then the reticular activating system is only going to double down for them, right? So think about Trump, who believes what he says, right? And he's learned this formula of how to sidestep things and get his agenda across, right? But if he honestly believes that he is doing such a good job and doesn't hear the criticisms because he doesn't believe they're even true, then using the reticular activating system is making him more of a narcissist to the rest of us, right? And it's just the comparison to lying and dodging and living in essentially an alternate reality, I think is very possible because of that. And I think we should have brain scans. Honestly, we should have brain scans of any politician because you can actually see psychological disorders with just brain scans, right? There's a lot of consistency. And then but why don't we do these kind of things? I don't know. There's a lot of science behind it. And
well, our system allows them to be very successful. This is a very successful narcissist. So if narcissism is helping you to succeed in our system, how, that's a problem that I don't know, how do we fix that one?
Well, see, the thing is that narcissism and a lack of empathy and being a sociopath is basically the three things that you need to succeed in capitalism. And capitalism helps you succeed in getting elected to government in our country, which is why there are so many people in governance that have zero empathy or sympathy or care about their constituents, because it's easy to be successful if you're a narcissist.
That's what got them there. That's the terrible truth of it. And, I seem like a ridiculous cynic sometimes, but the reason I look to accelerationism to solve our problems is because if the people at the helm are the problem, we have a who watches the watchman scenario. They're not going to change the rules that enable them to keep abusing us and abusing the rules and exploiting us. So I feel like the only way that we're going to get anything done is probably disruptive protests. I don't know. some
I
election.
mean,
but
the thing is
ultimately,
that
this
if
gets completely
things
captured.
go how
mean,
I
that's why
said
we have Joe
earlier,
Biden. Yeah.
if things go with the Trumpvilles and people by the millions in DC and New York are homeless and on the streets and start taking up residence in front of their, you know, state, county, national government offices because they have nowhere else to go, well, that's gonna be disruptionist.
I hope
And
so, yeah.
the powers that be are going to try and arrest and you know, attack and antagonize these people, and we're going to have mass murders, mass genocide of homeless people. But because of all of the you know, social media we have, it's going to be broadcast live to the world.
Yeah. The broadcasting to the world is the only thing that's, I think, going to change what's happening, and the fact that everyone's using their cameras. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to wrap up, right?
Yeah.
It's coming up on 2:00, so it's great talking with you guys. But yeah, my name is Shale. My Twitter is at SHAELRILEY. Who hasn't said their Twitter yet? Faye.
Oh,
Koo.
I'm at Palestine Math, and thank you for coming to the discussion today. I love the group that we had today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was a good group. Faye Doney.
Hi. Yes, my Twitter handle is at Tisdoney. It's TISDONEY. Thank you, everyone. By the way, this is a good talk.
Yeah, it's very nice.
This was
Wonderful.
very good.
Don, did you want to put your Twitter for everyone?
Yeah, I guess I better. You may know me better as Dizdon, aka Dizdon Plays. That's at DISDONNPLAYS. I'm also on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch under the same username. There we go.
Thank
Cool.
you.
And
Jeremy?
should we? I know. I wanted to say hi to Jeremy too. He was so quiet today.
Yeah, I'm just kind of chilling out here.
Jeremy's been doing the behind the scenes Twitch streaming.
Yeah, yes, they have been pretty quiet this episode, but it's been a great conversation, guys. If you guys would like to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Jeremy Sammons1. That is JeremySammons and the number 1.
All right. Well, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Stay safe.
Bye.
Take care of each
Yep.
other.
Stay
Bye.
safe. Take care. Wear a damn mask.